Okay, somebody said, I don't know if this is okay. It's a question. I'm in the process for a TSCI with a master's in cybersecurity. What's my earning potential? What? Okay, there's a couple things on this. What state are you in? What is the job description? How much experience do you have? All of those things are going to be factors. For example, Chris lives in the DMV area. His upper level for a job like you just mentioned with a TSSCI is going to be much higher than mine. I'm living in Colorado. Now it depends on a couple things. Like depends on, am I a manager? Am I an architect? Am I on the help desk doing cybersecurity? Where am I at? So it it's beyond those factors you mentioned. It's beyond just having a master's in cybersecurity, and it's beyond having a TSCI. There's a couple other factors that are going to determine your earning potential. What'd you say about that, Chris?
Yeah, I would agree. It just depends on where you at. For example, Colorado, it's close, but I'm gonna just say North Carolina, for example. ISO might make for that. They might. I'm just saying hypothetically with the experience and everything, you might because the cost of living is low down there. So you got to factor in your experience, certifications, even degrees, and you just you gotta in what you're trying to do to factor. Like in the DMV, I would say for an ISO, a starting ISO in a DMV with no experience, I say probably around 75 to 80K. And I say with a mid-level ISO, they can get around in the DMV, depending 5 to 10 years of experience, probably about 100 to 150K. And then I say up the upper echelons with ISOs, I think the max I've seen was around 200K. But it just depends on your experience and what you know and what you can bring to the table.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I'm just taking a look at what they're saying here on online. ZipRecruiter saying as of 2024, the average annual salary for a master's cybersecurity in US was 132,000 a year. But I honestly I don't know if that's accurate because you have to factor in a person's experience. They're not even going to hire you without a certain level of experience, or there's certain features that they're looking for when you have a master's in cybersecurity. Because a lot of times, some of the jobs you can land with a master's degree is going to be like you can be a manager like with a master's degree in certain roles I've seen. You can be a manager, but they're looking for experience. They're not going to just hire somebody to be a manager if you have no experience. So that said, what I would do if I were you is figure out where you can fit in, get in where you like fit in. You know what I mean? Here's what I'm saying. If you have no experience, you do have a master's degree. So what you might be able to do is get an internship or an apprenticeship. In those jobs, they're not going to pay a lot to begin with. But that said, if you can put in about a year's worth of work with your master's degree and a TSEI and some experience, you're going to very quickly go up the scale, like from where you're at.
And Bruce, I would also say too, I had a top secret and I had a master's degree in a security plus with no experience. And I would just give
Wow.
you in my entry level salary, I was only making 75K. So I don't think that's accurate. It's more about the experience of what you're saying. Because when I started entry level, I had a master's degree, top secret, and a clearance. And I was only getting 75K. And I would just say for people just trying to get into the field, you gotta humble yourself and take a salary to get you the experience because you'll get the money later on. So humble
Exactly.
yourself and just take it, whoever it is.
Exactly. I hope you heard that because that was very wise advice. So get in where you can. Like that experience, I keep telling people, experience is king. Like it's the certifications are great, but I think that it's a little overhyped in that they don't take into account that they're looking for experience for you to have, right? And I'm not telling you don't get a degree. A degree is awesome. It's very competitive. I'm not telling you not to get a certification. I talk about a lot about I got a bunch of certifications, but that experience is king. Like it's above all things. So I've met people with just an experience with no certifications, no degree, and they were making bank. As a matter of fact, my first two mentors, neither one of them had a degree. They had some industry vendor certs and stuff. They were just really brilliant people. And I had all the certs and degrees and stuff, and they weren't impressed. They were running circles around me. And like Chris said, I had to be humble. I had to just learn, and I did, and I just kept leveling up. Let me see
And
here.
and then too, Bruce, too, like when I get on interviews now, they don't even ask about the security plus. They only care about what I know. They don't even ask about the degrees. they forget it's there just to throw double
Exactly.
down on that.
Exactly. And Chris, have you heard this one before? You get in the interview and they say, tell me about yourself. What's your experience doing plan of action and milestones? They're not looking for you to say, I have a security plus, like I have a master's degree. They're looking for you to say, actually, I've done about 100 poems, plan of action and milestones at my last two jobs. Between my last two jobs, I've done about 100 of them. And that might sound impressive, but we had thousands of poems. And we had a few that were in a classified environment. We had a few that were in an unclassed environment. And the experience that I had was I had to write them. We had to input those into EMAS, and then we had to follow through. Now we completed at least 50% of those. We completed 65% of those. And I had to work with all the stakeholders in order to complete those plan of action and milestones. They're looking for your experience.
Right, great.
That's what they're looking for.
They don't care. They don't care about nothing else about what you know how to do.
They care about what you've done, if you can do the job, because they're expecting you to come in there and hit the ground running.
And one more thing, Bruce, too. A lot of people want to get 100K. A lot of people want to get six figures. But you got to understand, if you don't know how to do the job, you'll be out of there in a month or less because you're an investment to them. And
90
if you're not, if
days.
they're not getting their investment, you're out of there. So if you want to get that six figures, get it, but make sure you know how to do the work too.
Exactly. Exactly. You got to think long term. Think about where you want to be in the next 5 years. Don't just think about that payday, that 10,000 a month or whatever it is. That gross 10,000 a month sounds great, but think about where are you and your family going to be in the next 10 years? You want a job that's going to be stable. You want to be an engineer. You want to be a technician who has staying power, right? Not necessarily with that individual company, but in this market. Because even if your contract runs out or whatever, you want to be able to go to another job and be even more valuable than you were before. Think long term.